We have multiple surprising moves to discuss on this episode of Islanders Digest, as several Islanders players are coming back from injury, and as a result, the Islanders have to make some lineup decisions. And this is going to be very impactful, especially as the season moves forward, because the Islanders are still pushing for a playoff spot. The Islanders are still in it. They have a shot to make the playoffs, even after trading Brock Nelson, and these moves are definitely going to impact whether or not the Islanders can push through. But before we get into that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're an Islander fan and you want more Islanders content, this is the channel for you. Be one of our first 100 subscribers. With that, let's get right into some of the moves the Islanders made. The first move that definitely caught my attention is Mike Reilly and Matt Martin are both back from injury. They're both off the IR. Now, this one really surprised me, at least a little bit when it comes to Mike Reilly. I had a feeling that Matt Martin would be back, especially after the trade deadline was over, because after the trade deadline ends, you can have more than 23 players on your roster, on your expanded roster. You can still only play the same amount of players on per game, but you can hold more players on your roster so long as you are cap compliant. And with Brock Nelson no longer on the Islanders do have cap space for all their players. But again, I was really surprised about Mike Reilly because the Islanders held on to 9 defensemen on this deadline. They did not trade any other defensemen, at least any other defensemen that were on the current roster. So I was wondering, especially considering Mike Reilly was dealing with a heart procedure and not a typical injury, I was wondering if maybe even though he was practicing, maybe he was further along from coming back, and that's why the Islanders opted to keep their extra defenseman. But nope, Mike Reilly is back, and there's definitely an interesting decision the Islanders are going to have to make with that. And we're going to get into what the right decision is for the New York Islanders on defense to make in a bit. But first, I do also want to talk about the Islanders are also getting news that Marcus Hoberg, while he is not off the IR yet today, he is practicing, and it is expected that he will be activated soon. And this is definitely really good news for the Islanders. If the Islanders are going to make this playoff push, Sorokin is going to have to play a lot of games, but he cannot play every single game. You cannot play Ilya Sorokin for the remaining 21 games of the season. It's going to be too much. He's going to burn out, and he's already been playing every single game for a while. I know he had a break from the All-Star break. We've had a few days off, but still, Sorokin is playing a lot of minutes. He is eating up a lot of time in the net. It's going to be good to get Hoberg back because he's played some really good games, at least before he got injured. Maybe he can play the next game, not this game, but the next game against the Anaheim Ducks. Give Sorokin a little bit of relief in net because they're definitely going to have to get some wins from a backup goalie if the Islanders are going to make the playoffs. And at this point, it is not looking like Varlamov is going to be back this season. We haven't gotten any updates on Varlamov, which I feel like is an update enough, at least for the way it stands this season. Now, some other news, and we're going to get to this. It really gets into what's going to go on with Mike Reilly, because with the Islanders having 9 defensemen, Patrick Waugh has said today that he is going to rotate some of the defensemen around. Today, Scott Mayfield will actually be healthy scratched, along with Mike Reilly and Scott Perunovich, and Adam Bovequist is coming back in. He says here that he is going to have some sort of rotation, and it's going to be really interesting to see what the Islanders do here, because I was really under the impression, especially with having actually acquired young defensemen like Scott Perunovich and what's his name? Adam Bovequist off of injury. It really felt like the Islanders were going to try to go with a more youth movement on defense. Adam Bovequist is getting the next look, but at the same time, by not moving some of those older guys, it's really interesting to see what the Islanders are going to be doing. They already know what they have with Mike Reilly. You know what you have with Scott Mayfield, but Scott Mayfield is signed long-term. So you've really got to decide what you're going to be doing with these defensemen. And I am so glad that Mike Reilly is coming back from injury, especially after that serious heart condition that he had to get taken care of. But I really wonder if there is a place for him on the New York Islanders right now. If you look this season, he had 11 games played before the injury. He didn't have any points. He's been out for a long time after that concussion where his condition was initially discovered. And last season, you can see he was a very effective player for the New York Islanders. He had 24 points in 59 games. But this season, he really hasn't seemed to have the same touch. I wonder if part of that was his condition was dealing with his play, even though he didn't quite notice it yet. That being said, you have younger options such as Bovequist, such as Perunovich, and I really feel like it makes more sense for the Islanders to focus on those players, even if the Islanders are going to be making a playoff push. Because as we're going to see here, the Islanders, while they still have a road to climb, they are still in it. But if you're going to be making a playoff push, it makes sense to play D'Angelo. And if you're going to try another defenseman, maybe it makes sense to put in Scott Mayfield in a game where you're playing a more physical team, or you put in Adam Boqvist for a team where you're playing a more speedy team. But there's not really a scenario where Reilly stands out as the best option. And it would be nice to see him get a chance to play a game here or there to really reclaim his season after a terrible condition and injury he had to go through. I don't know if the Islanders can really afford to do that if they're trying to make the playoffs here. There really is no more room for error. The Islanders cannot afford to lose games that they have a chance to win. You got a lot of teams ahead of them. They are only 5 points out, but after that game where Ottawa Senators got another 2 points against the Rangers got a point. This is getting to be a harder road to climb as they're 5 points out, but even if they get the 5 points, the Rangers are still up there and they're not in the playoffs. This is going to be a very competitive playoff push, and I know some fans don't even want to see the team make the playoffs at this point, especially after trading Brock Nelson. Let me make one thing very clear. Patrick Waugh, Lou Lamoriello, they are not going to throw out the season just because Brock Nelson was traded. They are going to do everything they can to make this team make the playoffs. We've seen this team go through adversity before. They are going to do everything they can to make the playoffs. So that's definitely what's to happen. It's just really a question of what is the best roster to do that. And I think right now it makes sense to cycle between Scott Mayfield and Adam Boqvist, and I really don't see the other defensemen getting time. And that's really unfortunate because I definitely think Peronovich is a player that if given more time, given an opportunity in New York, he can be a solution long term. And I wonder if the Islanders, if they don't seem to win more games moving forward, as right now they're only 5 points out, but if they start to become 7 or 9 as there's only 10 games left, and it looks more likely that they're going to make this push, I wonder if they stop playing Tony DeAngelo every day and give a guy like Peronovich and Boqvist more time playing everyday minutes, really trying to see what they have with those two players. Those two players are both restricted free agents, and I have a feeling the Islanders, especially considering they did not trade them in the deadline, they likely want to hold on to those two pieces. At least that's the gist I'm getting so far, but we'll definitely see what they do, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, but honestly, unless something happens and we have more injuries, which it can happen, the Islanders' defense has been injured all season long, but unless something happens, I really do not see a position where it makes sense to put Reilly in above any of these players. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about Matt Martin, as Matt Martin is coming back from injury, and Matt Martin really is in the same position. I really feel like during this time that he was injured, he was kind of doing a favor for the Islanders. I know he was injured, but I had a feeling he probably could have played through that injury, but he didn't want the Islanders to lose a roster spot for him. They didn't want to go down on waivers, so he kind of, not that he did anything wrong, but sometimes these players, like, they can play through an injury, but they get put on the IR when the team doesn't really have a position. I have a feeling that's what was going on with Matt Martin, because he has been lingering around the team for a bit now. And again, with his season, I really don't know if it makes sense to put Matt Martin back in. He has played 24 games this season. He has 1 assist. I love Matt Martin. He's been one of my favorite Islanders, and especially now that Brock Nelson is gone, he really feels like one of the last pieces of that old team. However, he was only playing 7 minutes a game. That's the lowest he has ever played in his career. Not really showing results anymore. Unless there's an injury to the forward core, I don't think Matt Martin gets back in this season, and it's a real shame because if Matt Martin played all the Islanders' remaining 21 games, he would hit career game 1,000. Does not look like he's going to be in the lineup tonight, so that's not going to happen this season, and with the way he has played this season, it's very unlikely that the Islanders do decide to bring him back again. With that being said, let me know your thoughts. Let me know which defenseman you think should sit now that the Islanders have all 9 defensemen back from injury. In addition, do you think it makes sense for the Islanders to play Matt Martin? Let me know your thoughts below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and let's go Islanders.